Nithyananda everyone, it's Priscilla. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share about how Jesus actually led me to Hinduism. Yes, I know this sounds a bit odd to some people, and I haven't shared too much detail actually about the first 19 years of my life or so, but those were the years, and most of my life was spent in the only connection I knew to God or the divine was through Jesus and through Mary, Jesus' mother. And it's not this dual thing like many people think. I think even maybe people see that I became Hindu and like all these things, maybe they think that all of this like is so like black and white, like my Christian upbringing and my journey now. But actually I just wanted to share how beautiful of a transition it was, and how Jesus fully, I know without a doubt, like actually brought me to where I am now, to Swamiji, to Hinduism, and led me to an enlightened master in the body, and basically passed me along on the next phase of my path. So I always had a relationship with a pretty close relationship with Jesus and with Mary as a child, and I would always just talk to, you know, that God that I knew in my head, and I felt very connected, and I always saw Jesus as like this, you know, this embodiment of love, that like Christ consciousness, right? Just pure love energy and acceptance. So for me that was huge because I had so much guilt and self-hatred growing up and all these things, so I always felt like solace in speaking with Jesus. And as I started my spiritual journey and exploring Eastern religion, in general, Buddhism, all these things, I started feeling this conflict inside myself of like, is it wrong that I'm straying from my relationship with Jesus? And I didn't know how to like speak to the divine, not in that form. I was so used to only speaking to the divine in this form that I had been told and indoctrinated with, in this one particular form of God the Father, Jesus, and a little bit with Mary, although she wasn't even recognized as the actual divine, although I always saw her as such. But I only had this cognition of speaking to God through Jesus. So when it started becoming something more, something bigger, there was a hurdle for me there, because I felt like I don't know if it's wrong that I am moving on from this relationship I once had with Jesus. I almost felt like, in a way, I was like cheating on him because I was so used to, like, throughout my day-to-day, right, I would speak to Jesus in my head. I would speak to Jesus when I was praying. If I was in a tough spot, I would pray to Jesus for help. And as it started to transform away from that, as it started to expand larger than just Jesus, part of me felt like, is this wrong that I'm not speaking to him as much anymore? I saw it still in like in a dual consciousness kind of idea. But during my first Inner Awakening program, a 21-day yoga and meditation retreat here in India, when I met Paramahamsa Nithyananda, Swamiji, an enlightened guru here for the first time, it was blowing my mind of all conceptions of what and who God was. But it was really hard, like I said, for me to let go of these ideas and how I had always related to the divine. I had this unbelievably beautiful experience where during a meditation process, I had this vision, this intense vision, and it was as if I was back in time, like ancient times. There was this dirt road, and all these people were gathered around, and somebody was walking up this road, and I was like bowed down to the ground, like my face was bowed down on the dirt, on the sand, and I just saw the person's feet walk up to me, and it was like very reverent, like I knew everybody was bowing down to him as well, whoever it was. And inside myself, I was immediately like, my cognition was, oh, this is Jesus walking by me. It was like I was in those kind of times in ancient Israel. I was bowed down on the ground, and when I looked up, I started realizing, I don't know if this is Jesus, something feels different. And it was like I couldn't see the full essence of the being at this point, and I heard a voice say, I questioned Jesus, like, is that you? And I heard her voice reply back, not as you know me. And then I saw, as I finished panning my vision up, I looked up, and standing in front of me was Swamiji, Paramahamsa Nithyananda. And this just, for me, was just a wow moment, because I realized, like, Jesus isn't separate from all this, and everything that I always knew was it's still there, it's a part of my reality, but it was like, Jesus literally knew my cognition was only relating to him, and as I jumped to that conclusion, even in that space, I was told by this divine presence, like, it's the same me, just not as you've cognized me for all these years. It's like, I am so much more than what you related to me. And I just was in awe and realized, like, everything, of course, is all tied together. Everything is so auspicious. Jesus brought me to this space just as much as anything else. Like, my relationship with him, because he's an enlightened being but not in the body anymore, he is passing me on to an enlightened master, an enlightened being, an incarnation who I can experience in person, and there is no greater gift than that. And I just felt deep within my being, like, knowing, like, there is nothing wrong here. Like, no matter what other people, people from my Christian background may be telling me with their judgments or anything, there is nothing wrong with this. It's actually just so beautiful and so auspicious, and that I'm just getting handed off from one being to another as I continue to upgrade my consciousness and continue my journey. And this was just such a beautiful moment for me, and I wanted to share, because I think sometimes I talk more about what's going on now, but I thought it was important to share kind of where I came from and how everything developed into what it is now. And that I truly believe, without a doubt, that all religions are here for a purpose on earth, and that, they relate to different people at different phases of life. And I know and truly believe, like, Western religion, Christianity, was there for me as this stepping stone I needed to get to. And at a certain point, it's not that anything was wrong, per se, right or wrong, it's just, it became like the knowledge, I reached the peak of the knowledge that I could absorb, and I was looking for more and more answers, and the questions I was asking I couldn't find answers in that church anymore. So I got handed off to this next deeper level of consciousness and answers and spirituality, which is Hinduism, which is the most vast source of spiritual knowledge on planet Earth to date. And I truly do appreciate every aspect, and I know that everything exists for a reason, and that it's like how I like to explain. I was talking with a friend of mine about this actually the other day. Is like, the best way I can explain it is, like, for me, Christianity was like a picture book. Okay, it's like I read this book, I know all the pictures, I've read all the stories. Okay, and then I stumble across 100 volumes of encyclopedias, and somebody's asking me, well, why do you want to stop reading the picture book? There's nothing wrong with the picture book. Why are you judging the picture book? And I'm saying, I'm not judging the picture book. It's just, now that I've read the picture book and I have volumes of encyclopedias in front of me, how could I ever go back to the picture book thinking the picture book would give me more than these encyclopedias? It's like the best analogy I can give. There's just, from Christianity, which has one source book, to Hinduism, which has over 40 million source books, is this infinite span of knowledge, which my being has just been craving to discover and absorb. And that was one phase of the path I needed to take, and now this is the next. And I just wanted to share how, everything actually is so in synchronicity, integrated. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening to this part of my life, and please let me know your thoughts and feelings and comments and questions. I'll definitely get back to you as soon as I can, probably within a day or less. And thank you guys for keeping up with me, and I really appreciate all of your love and support through all of my craziness and stories and everything, so, and my ups and downs. So thank you guys, I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Nithyananda.